Hello SourceFedNerd Movie Club, it's me Jenny, aka ClassyLibrarian, and this week's movie was Being John Malkovich. And my groupie review for this film is, although this is really well directed and I couldn't find a fault with the acting, there's a lot of really good moral and ethical questions thrown into this film, and it's a brilliant concept. I wouldn't say this was a very enjoyable film. I definitely recommend watching it once if you're an adult, because there's definitely a lot of sexual stuff that was thrown into this film. I think Freud would have a field day with this film because every single character seems so focused on their libido that they can't really focus on anything else in their life. Pretty much all the characters anyway. So definitely watch it once. As I said, there's a lot of really good directorial choices in this film. Whether or not it's specifically using different camera types for different types of scene, whether or not it's the first person scenes, which I thought were really well done. The sound design is really, really well done, where you can have the kind of feeling like you're inside someone's head, sort of when he's biting down the toast, you kind of hear it behind you sort of feeling. The sound design is really well done for the first person shoots. I also really like the monkey sequence, that kind of just the strange break in focus really helps settle that character. So I really like the direction just generally. It's rather simple throughout, but it's effective where it's needed to be. I like the way that the puppet sequences were directed, where you kind of, it's a bit uncanny valley. You feel a little bit like they're almost too real, which is very effective for the overall metaphor of the puppeteering. The acting throughout's very good. I think John Malkovich kind of steals the show because you can tell he's got some Shakespearean practices behind him, whether or not he's actually reading the Shakespeare part. But the fact that he's able to go to embody so many different characters while they embody him, and his physical acting really, really works well for a character that's in more than one mind, as it were. So it really worked very well for him. I think all the acting throughout is really good, even if the characters are unlikable. You know, there are some high points for some of the characters, but for the most part, as I said, the characters seem so driven by their selfish wants, particularly to do with sex, which seems to ruin, or at least rule, so much of their lives. So, you know, there's a very selfish point of view with this, particularly when they find this portal and immediately it goes to selfish practices rather than any sort of empathy, which is, you know, the question of what would someone else want, what would someone else need. It's immediately jumped to give us the money. It doesn't matter what your reasons are for wanting to be in someone else's body. It's, we don't care, just give us the money and we'll go from there. So this is a very difficult film to watch once it gets to that point, because it does become so unethical to not inform John Malkovich of what's going on, and then the stuff that goes on around that. It felt very kind of off-putting for me from that point. It was, again, very interesting, the concept of being puppeteered, the concept of not having control over your thoughts, processes, but it's not necessarily enjoyable. And again, for the first half an hour, I think someone else said this, I can't remember which one of the movie club was, but the first half an hour I felt like I was having so much metaphors and analogies shoved down my throat that wasn't really getting to know the story or getting interested in the characters, because I just felt like it was all metaphors and all just, this is the overall kind of feeling you're supposed to get. It felt very much like a art film trying to shove a concept down your throat rather than actually enjoying the film. So for the first half an hour I was kind of lost in that, the idea of the puppeteering, the, again, Freudian stuff that came in, and a lot of the other stuff to do with that, where it's got character development for the main character Schwartz and how he's unable to function in a relationship because he doesn't have the control, and yet is immensely aroused, for want of a better word, by someone who is completely independent of control. While Cameron Diaz's character, she clearly wants a child, and she's thrown all of her love and all of her want for a child and all of her later gender issues into her love for animals. And you know, you have those little things, but it's not enough to distract from the just metaphors, which, you know, I appreciate in their own right, but it felt a little bit overdone for me and not so enjoyable. And then after that it gets into the moral problems. So, you know, direction is good, the acting is good, the story is immensely interesting but not necessarily enjoyable. So I definitely, recommend watching this once. Maybe have a break halfway through and have a cup of tea. But it's up to you. I'm sorry if I look slightly different with the lighting, with the camera, with the sound. I'm using my webcam because my old camera is broken. I'm still waiting for my new camera to arrive. Sorry for the wet hair. I jumped out the shower and I realised how dark it was getting outside, so I thought I'd film now. I hope you can forgive me for all of those odds and ends of production value. And hopefully I will see you guys all soon with a better camera and better sound quality. And I hope you can forgive me for my lack of everything. I just wanted to prove that, I was still alive.